The following is a Pod Beard production.
EST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We're Rolling Audio here today on episode 254 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I have a kick-ass episode for you here today. I try to do every single week right here on The Hodder Show. I am sitting now with my man Ryan from Chruch On Sunday, and we have a really fun chat. Just about an hour and 20 minutes or so of a chat. We cover a lot of ground talking about kind of how COVID-19 is affecting him as well as his business. He is actually basically he does recording as well as kind of a little bit of artist management and also a little bit of kind of like almost like graphic design for artists and things of that nature. He explains it a lot more better than I am doing here right now. But obviously with what's going on, you know, in the world, and as I'm recording this, you know, things are slowly starting to open up, and you know, hopefully things are going to start getting a little bit back on track for the music industry. But we talk a little bit about that, the industry itself, how he got started with music, as well as his influences in the early days, the formation of Chruch On Sunday, and kind of how that whole thing started. We talk a ton about songwriting, about their cover of Ballroom Blitz, which you guys are going to hear in its entirety as well. It's a really, really fun cover, and we just have a lot of fun, man. Ryan is a great guy, and he had a lot of really fun stories, and really had a lot of fun having a chat ski with him. So I hope that you guys enjoyed as much as I did. Before we get into that, though, I, of course, want to give a humongous shout out to everybody who supported me on last week's episode of the show when I sat down with Hoogie. Let me tell you, that was a really fun episode, and it is, you know, without a doubt, it was the biggest interview I had done at this point in my podcasting career. Not that everyone who has been on the show or who is going to be on the show from here on out isn't just as important, but for me personally, having Hoogie on was really, really cool because he was someone I really looked up to as a guitar tech, and you know, he's toured the world with some of my favorite bands, so it was really, really fun, and I just want to thank everybody. You know, I got a lot of messages saying how great the interview was and everything, and I just feel really good. I feel really confident in my abilities, and this interview with Ryan also, I think it was just a really great interview. I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders right now, guys. I don't know. I feel really, really good about everything, and even though there's still some crazy stuff going on in the world, I feel like I'm able to pull you out of that for a little bit here on the show, talk about some music and other fun stuff. That's what we're all about here, all about trying to entertain you, and I hope that we do that. Be sure to hit the subscribe button or follow button. If I do, I very much appreciate it. And while you're at it, be sure that if you have a beard or you know someone who has a beard, go on meanbeardco.com right now. They are doing a Father's Day sale. That's right, a Father's Day sale. You got another couple days. It's ending soon, folks. You got to jump on it right now. Go on meanbeardco.com and you can go get, it is the King of the Day sale. And let me tell you, it is awesome. You get oil, you get balm, and you get Mean Whip, which is, that is a fantastic product. As a bearded guy who has sensitive skin, Mean Beard's products not only make your beard feel incredible, they get rid of dandruff and all the dry itch and everything like that happens underneath the skin on your beard, but also I promise you guys, you won't have any allergic reactions or anything like that because of the different types of high quality carrier oils that Mean Beard uses. There's no artificial perfumes or anything at all like that, just high quality ingredients, all handmade by the man himself, Mr. Joe Loving. So let me tell you, get on that right now if you still need a last minute gift for dad. If you're in the States, maybe you'll get it by Father's Day. I don't know, it might be kind of a little close, but you can still take advantage of this great deal. Maybe give dad a last minute Father's Day gift, or buy yourself a last minute Father's Day gift. Treat yourself. You are a king. If you're listening to this right now, you're not a father. You're a king.
Chat with
Treat
Ryan
yourself
Preiano
like one.
from
Go on
Chruch On Sunday.
meanbeardco.com right
Let's
now.
get into it.
You get the meanest in beard care, but always remember, guys, it's not the beard.
I'm very excited about this
attitude
one. Another one
that
that's kind of been a bit of a
mean
long
beard.
time coming, as life has been very hectic lately. But I'm very excited to have on the show right now here today Ryan, I'm going to totally butcher your last name, even though you've given it to me a whole bunch of times. Preiano.
You got it right.
I got it right. Yes.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Ryan Preiano from Chruch On Sunday, the front man of the band. My man, how you doing today?
I am. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Very excited to be talking to you here today. I appreciate the understanding and the acceptance of the fact that I had to keep moving things around on you. And
No problem, man. I'm usually the one moving things around on other people, so I know what it's like.
yeah, you wear a lot of hats. You got a pretty hectic schedule, and obviously, like we're going to talk about all that and talk about the band and everything. But
Yeah.
just kind of real quick, kind of almost the elephant in the room. Obviously, with everything going on in the world right now, how are you doing? How is life like for someone like yourself who went from having such a crazy hectic schedule to like, oh, I have all this time to myself. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. It was hard. I think we kind of got this preconceived notion at first that it was going to be like, okay, this is going to be over very soon.
Yeah.
But it's just been going on. There's no end date, so I've kind of leveled off with it. At first, I was like all go go go, and I was just like, I had a bunch of shows rescheduling. I had a bunch of like projects I was working on of just getting them going. Then after 2 weeks, I kind of just hit a rock, and I was like, ugh, this is whatever. Whatever. I'm just gonna mope around and not do much. So then that happened. And then, I don't know, things kind of picked back up, and I just kind of regulated back more into a schedule where I just started being healthier. Like I started cooking more and working out, and then just started getting back into a bunch of music. So at the moment, I'm doing fantastic. I'm just working on a bunch of projects and starting up a few other projects that have kind of been so far on the back burner, sort of thing.
Well, that's awesome to hear. And that's one thing that's been kind of, if there's a silver lining in this whole thing, is the fact that a lot of, musicians I've spoken to here on the show or off the show, is just that, things that they've kind of either been putting off for one reason or another, or things that they didn't think they were going to have time for, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have all this extra time. So that, hey, that solo album, for example, that I've been wanting to do forever, that I have all these songs laying around for, well, I got time, so let's do that. Or, there's lots of people that are, like starting to do podcasts and doing like live stream shows. And it's definitely, as creative people, it's definitely a time where it's great to use that time. But also, that being said too, there's definitely nothing wrong with taking some time to kind of like, holy cow, we're into something heavy right now. And this is uncharted territory for everybody in the world, not just our generation.
Yeah, I think on that note, there was a lot of pressure at first to use this time to be creative. Everyone's like, be creative, and I think that's partially what kind of made me upset shortly into this, because I just didn't want to. I was just like, I spent the past couple months like working on a bunch of like recording projects and things like that, and now was supposed to be the time that I was supposed to go out into the world and play shows and be sharing my art with people. So it just didn't want to happen.
For sure, yeah, because like you were saying earlier, like that you like had a little bit of touring planned and some shows planned. So obviously, having basically, from what I understand, pretty much your whole, at least the most of your year probably lined up, and then just poof,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that would be like, oh, okay, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it was a hard thing to do, but the benefit has been, we've kind of been able to just sit down and think about, okay, where are we going to go from here? Or even though the time of when that's going to happen is unknown, we're kind of just sitting down and thinking, okay, like what do we fully want to do? What's our bucket list stuff we want to do at this point?
Definitely, and that's a very awesome thing to be doing at a time like this, and focusing on the positives and what we're going to do once this is all over with. And obviously, those of you listening, I hope that you're all doing awesome, and that you're everyone's staying healthy and staying positive, and we're slowly starting to get the wheels turning and things like that. But you mentioned about some recording projects in that. So before we kind of get into anything further, I wanted to ask, on top of being the front man for Chruch On Sunday, as well as working on some other projects you've been mentioning, you also are the actually a small business owner. So I was just curious on that. What exactly is it that you do? And also, just really quick, obviously I don't want to dwell on it too much, but how has it affected you, obviously being someone who is a small business owner in the recording field. How has this kind of COVID thing affected you on that front?
Yeah, so I own Agoria Productions. So we're based out of Toronto, and we're a merchandising, recording, and promoting company. So it's a whole heck of a lot, but I kind of started it with the envisionment to be a one-stop shop for bands, sort of thing.
Awesome.
Because I knew, I'm pretty young. Like I just turned 22, but I knew through the years that I was getting the band going, things like that. A lot of the challenges I faced and whatnot were kind of a pain in the ass. And then I'd hear bands that were paying ridiculous amounts for merch, and then other bands getting ripped off by promoters. So I was like, okay, what's stopping me from taking the knowledge I have learned and continue to grow and do that? So with that, Agoria launched just about a year and a half ago, and we were printing T-shirts and stickers, buttons, business cards, all that fun stuff. And then we actually got a space in Toronto that we renovated. Myself and a few buddies of mine slaved over hours that we basically went inside and we gutted the whole thing.
Oh,
and we
wow.
put it, yeah, the fun part was the tear down, the building part. Building part, when you're not a contractor, not so much. So yeah, then we built a recording studio in there, and that was that. And then the business kind of started growing rapidly in a different direction that I actually didn't expect. We were doing promotions and stuff, and we're doing a few smaller things, but one thing led to another, and then we ended up involved with a hosting show with like single mothers, and then we kept growing and stuff. And this year we had some of our biggest shows. We had Dilly Dally and Chastity out for shows. We had Castledor and Texas King. And then we were supposed to have like Cancer Bats and some other cool things like that, but unfortunately those have got put to the wayside. So that, I guess, leads me into your second part of that question: how has this affected me? My business being fully rooted in the music industry, it pretty much just stopped my business. Like it was to a point where they announced CERB, and it's like, oh, whatever, if 70% of your income is affected, it's like, well, 100% of my income is affected right now, so thank you for this benefit. Luckily, with some reopenings and stuff happening right now, I've been able to reopen some parts of my business.
Awesome.
Like we're printing merch and things again, but the bottom line is, if bands aren't touring a ton, they don't need a ton of merch, so the demand is much lower. However, we are trying to branch off and to do different things. Like we just, like 48 hours ago, just launched, we're printing custom face masks now too.
Oh,
so
awesome.
we're trying to expand. Yeah.
Might need to hit you up for some custom Hotter Show face masks. But,
Hey, they're the trend right now. That's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
So.
I literally had someone message me the other day because I was talking about T-shirts, and they're like, why are you getting T-shirts? Where are the face masks? And I'm like, see, if I do a face mask, it's going to be like my face on a face mask. And then it's just...
and everyone's wearing your face.
I think that would be just hilarious. But that's awesome to hear, man, that kind of things are slowly starting to get back, and that, you're starting to see some resurgence there. And obviously, if you're someone listening to this, as we do have a lot of musicians that listen to this podcast, and you're in need of any kind of those kind of services, be sure to hit him up, because I'm sure he could definitely help you out. And with all your experience that you've had at this point in the business, definitely would be very beneficial to have that one stop. Because I know, even from stories I've heard on this podcast, it's so easy to get swindled by a promoter because they, come out here and we'll pay you, and sorry boys, I'd love to even give you gas money, but I can't, and I need to take a percentage of your merch. It's like, wait, what the hell? So it's awesome to hear that there's someone kind of trying to group everything together.
Yeah, I mean, I know what it's like to be on the receiving end, the band's end. So the last thing I want to be doing is screwing bands over, like any time, because we do shows on the larger scale, and then we're doing shows on smaller scales, like we're doing local band nights and stuff in Toronto and new markets and things like that. And the bottom line that I was telling all bands was like, you know what, you're going to get paid out based off of how many people show up. Like we're going to split the door 5 ways if there's 4 bands, sort of thing. I take an equal cut that all you guys get. And at the end of the day, if you make $20 each, I also only make $20. If you make $300 each, it goes that way for everyone, sort of thing. So I want to be able to help out in that sense while still being able to pay my bills.
Of course, yeah. That's the one side of it that some people don't really think about when you're a promoter, which I've spoken about this before on the show with people, but like if you're a promoter who this is all you have, you don't have a daytime job. All you're doing is promoting shows and doing, merch and maybe and things like that. If you don't make money, then you go home and you open your fridge and guess what? There's nothing in there. It's not like you're going to go to your 9-to-5 job tomorrow. This is all you have. So I think sometimes, certain promoters deserve to be demonized. Don't get me wrong. There's been some horror stories, but there's that flip side where it's like, hey guys, I know I said I'd pay you $100, but like the turnout was not what I thought, but like, hey, here's at least something. I'm walking away with nothing, but here's at least,
Yeah, I'd rather be able to give someone something than nothing. And then there's been many opportunities where I have taken much less than the bands have gotten paid or things like that. But there's always the flip side. If it isn't a night like that where I don't end up getting that much money or whatever, I'm not. At the end of the day, there's the flip side of I got to promote my business and my brand, so someone that came in might order merch from me. So try to stay opportunistic like that. And at the end of the day, man, like anyone that knows me, let's just tell you, I love music. Like when I'm doing these shows, I'm usually rocking out to the local bands that are playing, and I'll go home and listen to the records because I've had a love for music forever.
Definitely. Well, on that, as far as your love with music, where exactly did all of this start with you? And what was like kind of some of the first music that you ever heard? What was your introduction to it?
It's a hard question to answer. It is a question that comes up pretty decently though. There's always been a lot of music like in my household growing up, not necessarily anyone playing music or anything. There hasn't really been much talent there. I don't know where I got that from. So like from a very young age, my mom would listen to things like Ozzy Osbourne and Led Zeppelin and The Who and Oasis and things like that. And my dad was more on like that classic rock, like the typical dad rock side, like Bruce Springsteen. He loves Bruce Springsteen and Bob Seger. Yeah, I've seen Bruce Springsteen like 8 times live now.
Oh yeah, we love the boss here. I'm just making a joke, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So that's kind of where that all started. And when I was in like grade 1 or 2, my mom was like, you need to play piano. She forced me. She's like, yeah, I want you to play piano because her mom, so my grandmother was very big into choirs, and she's an amazing piano player and everything like that as well. So she kind of wanted it to be passed on to me because my mom never pursued it so well. So she put me in piano lessons and I absolutely hated it, dude. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't want to be doing this. But looking back on it now, I'm very thankful of it because whenever I picked up the guitar, I saw what translated over. But I kind of realized as a kid, I was sitting there and, I was a little kid that would listen to rock music, but I was being forced to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano. Yeah. And that's just why I had no interest in it. So then I dropped the piano and my mom was like, you got to pick another instrument. And I was like, I want to play the drums. And my dad's like, no way in hell is there going to be a drum set in this house.
Come on, don't be cool, Dad. Come on.
So we settled on guitar. And
I like how that was the settle. Like, we don't want you to play this thing that's really loud and banging, but you can have this other thing that can sometimes be just as equally as loud.
Oh, trust. Like some of the excuses were drums are more expensive, guitars are going to be quieter. It's like, oh, once you jump down the rabbit hole of guitars, I don't think drums are more expensive. Like
maybe that first initial push, but yeah, no, not overall. I'd say it's pretty.
It's turned into ridiculous. Like any of my friends, a lot of my friends say it's gotten out of hand, man. Because I own 52 guitars right now.
Yeah, we definitely need to dive into that later for sure.
Yeah, and then I guess just to finish off the music story, it was around Christmas. I remember my aunt and uncle got me a guitar and my brother because he was like younger than me and he did everything I did. So it was just that typical brother relationship. My older brother's doing it, I want to do it too. And we both got guitars for Christmas. Then we both started taking lessons like together, and I was more into it than him, so I kind of continued with it. I didn't take too many lessons, but I learned a lot of like the basics and a few rock songs and things like that. And I was really into Springsteen at that point. I saw him. It was like the first concert I went to. So I was learning a few things like on Springsteen on guitar. And then I got really into the Beatles and I was learning that. But it wasn't until I'd say like grade 7. I don't even know how old you're in grade 7, like 13, 14, I don't know.
12, 13, 12? 14, somewhere in that.
Yeah, around that. I was playing in a band at the time. It was just more like for fun or whatever. A few buddies, like my mom was on a book club, and like some other people in the book club had kids that like played bass and drums. So that's just how that worked. But it was really when I discovered Green Day that I actually really got into music, because for me it was, I don't know what it was about them, but I think when I first heard Dookie, and it was just all like, you know, these power chords and the simplicity of this music, but these melodies and these things that really spoke to me, I guess, sort of thing. That's when I really dove into like music, when I discovered Green Day, because I'd always been like a fan of the Ramones and the Clash, but I went back and redeveloped a whole new taste for them, and then my love just grew, and I got into so many smaller bands too, from anywhere from like Husker Du to underrated bands like The Replacements or Sweet. After I heard Ballroom Blitz, I got into their whole catalog.
Yes.
I just continued playing in the band, doing music like that for a bit, and then things started getting really serious the past little bit. I met Ian, who's the drummer in Chruch On Sunday, and we call each other our musical soulmates because we just click on like a very interesting level, I guess, when it comes to music, because we first started jamming together, and not only were we jamming together, like we'd hang out after we jam and we just get into the most ridiculous conversations, ridiculous videos, and just, you know, so it's good that whenever you're able to have a relationship with someone, I guess you're quote unquote working with, because a band is very much like a relationship and a work relationship too, for sure. You know? So yeah, and then I guess that's just all that just kept growing into my love of music, and then up until, you know, recently, I was going out to at least 3 or 4 shows a weeknight, seeing local bands. I was playing a bunch of shows. I would hop on and play open mics, and the best thing was, I will say, this year started off on a really high note, which I'm very happy for, because we got to play one of my favorite venues in Toronto. We got to do a headline set, or a co-headline set, I guess, with a band called Cigar Club, also a great band. I advise you to check them out, at Lee's Palace, and that was just phenomenal because we had a bunch of our friends come out, this and that, and just playing to, it was, I don't remember the exact total, but it was just shy of like 350 people, I think. Just playing to that many people, just this early into like the career and the way things are going, was just fantastic experience for us, sort of thing, and just the unity of everyone coming together, and, you know, seeing people moshing and dancing to your music, and then finishing the night out with Ballroom Blitz and everyone going mental was the highlight of that show. So yeah, that's pretty much my story about music.
Well, that's awesome, man. And just going back for a minute, as far as, you know, obviously you mentioned Green Day was kind of the band that did it for you, as far as starting to really hone in on what you liked. But also you mentioned like the Ramones and kind of that classic, you know, power chord punk is what I call it, where it's just very, it's, you know, it's funny because the saying 3 chords and the truth can be used for punk, but also I think it's used in country too. Like, it's kind of a weird dynamic there with that. But as far as from a guitar playing standpoint, like you mentioned that you have some actual, so with piano and with guitar, like obviously you know your theory then. I would have to assume at least a little bit. If you're playing piano, you would, you know.
I said I knew my theory until this is the story, until I met Ian, the drummer of my band, because he went to Humber for jazz drumming.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
So
that's a real musician right there.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So it obliterated my thoughts of what I knew of theory. So I'll leave that section to him now if there's anything. But it's funny though, because the way you mentioned the power chords in punk and country, you know, the 3 chord sort of thing. but it's very interesting how many genres cross over, because I'll use Ian as an example, that the reason him and I bonded is because of our love for punk. Like, he loves Billy Talent and Blink-182. We talk forever about those two bands, and he loves those guys, but he's also a huge jazz guy. And there's all these similarities, all these things that you don't really realize until you actually start to understand music more. And I think put away a bit of an ignorance, because I think any teenager, especially like I'm into music, I'm really into this, like you build up a bit of an ignorance. I know I did to certain things. So once you kind of break through that barrier, then it's just it's a never ending void. I'm telling you, it's just of what to learn and things like that. So.
Well, that's awesome. And what I was going to ask was, as far as with, like you go from classic rock and you're playing a big guitar, you're playing some piano, a little bit, to then when you hear, like you mentioned Dookie specifically, at that point with your guitar playing, had you kind of started to really get into that punk rock style of guitar, kind of the rhythm guitar and things of that nature? Or was Dookie really the record that pushed you over the edge with that you were like, okay, I want to really dig into this? And also on top of that, when about did you get to the point where you were like, I want to like also sing as well?
That's another question I've never been asked before about that. So that's something I have to think about. I recall a lot of what I was playing before, like that Dookie time was a lot of like Guns N' Roses and like Van Halen. I was really into, like I was the kind of guy that would rather play guitar than be playing video games, sort of thing, for a while. And I was just really into learning a lot of those licks and melodies, but I think I was never really learning full songs, which I think a lot of guitar players do when they're young. They just learn licks and licks, and I was learning a lot of licks, and then I started learning a few Beatles songs. But then when I think the Green Day is what encouraged me to learn full songs, just because of how familiarized with like the melodies I enjoyed. So I'd like to be able to play the whole thing front to back, and then from that point, that kind of influenced me to actually want to go on and kind of rethink some other songs. Like there was a point in time where the band was covering, like the band I was in at the time, was covering like Neil Young, but we would change it and speed it up, and all the chords and stuff that he was playing were now turned into power chords, like played down. Like we changed all this stuff that I think that's Dookie kind of opened my eyes to that world of different ways of playing it, sort of thing.
Before you go on, I just have to ask, as a huge Neil Young fan, what was was there one specific song you guys played, or was there a couple, or what was the song?
I don't remember fully, because there was a few, but one thing that always came back to was Keep on Rockin' in the Free World.
Nice. I was going to say, if I had to pick one that was like, I would assume it's probably going to be that song.
Yeah, it turned punk pretty well, is what I'll say.
It would lend itself very well to a... I could like literally hear it in my mind already, like just power chords speeded up. It would be a really cool song.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I think I actually want to revisit eventually, and maybe play it again, because I enjoyed it. I'm a big Neil Young fan too, so I guess I have a bit of a bias there. And the second part of that question was singing. That's also a hard thing for me, because I couldn't tell you exactly when it happened. I will say I was playing in a band where we had a singer, and the singer like left. And then I think it was just kind of a situation where I stepped up to the plate and just started doing it, just because, like no one else would. Yeah. So I was just doing it. I was like, okay, yeah, pretty much. But when I heavily got into singing was when first, full disclosure, I was a bit of a theater kid. When I was younger, I did like musicals and things like that. So I had that side to me. But when I fully got into really wanting to learn my voice and do vocal training and things like that was when I started writing music. Because to me, it just didn't ever make sense to have someone else sing music you've written. There's a certain connection like a songwriter has when they sing and play their own music, versus whenever someone else is singing a song that was written for them, or like I feel there's such a strong emotional connection. And I'm going to use Oasis. Oasis is one of my favorite bands. Like my top two are Green Day and Oasis. I'm going to use Oasis as a great example that, Noel, the guitar player, would write a lot of the music, and Liam would sing a lot of it, and it came out really well. Like, that duo worked really well, and it was fantastic and whatnot. But whenever the band split, Noel ended up eventually doing some solo stuff, and it turned into him singing these Oasis songs that were usually sung by his brother, and the take on them were just different. He wasn't sitting there and he wasn't trying to sing them like Liam sang them. He wasn't getting in front of the crowds and trying to play them the Oasis way. He was playing them the way that he connected with them as a songwriter, and that's really what got me into him and his music, because I could just tell how pure and how much he was emoting each line, because he knew where each line came from, because he had penned them.
Mm-hmm. It's a very tricky thing to be able to find a singer that can take words that, someone else has written and really dig in and really pull from the emotion, mainly obviously in like rock and punk and things like that. Like, it's different in like, and this isn't me bashing country or anything, but just as an example, like with country music, there's a lot of outside songwriters, and I think it would be a little easier to sing words that you didn't write if like, okay, it's a lot of country, there's a lot of very similar elements, whereas say in like a rock music or in punk, like you could argue the same thing, I guess, but there can be a very different take on the same song. Could mean something to you, but then it could mean something completely different to the songwriter. It could mean something different to the fan listening. So it's very tricky to find that. So I can definitely respect you kind of wanting to step up and just be like, well, I wrote them, so I might as well sing them.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up about different impressions for songs, sort of thing. Because I'm someone who really loves lyrics. Like, I love lyrics to music. Any of my favorite bands, anyone I listen to, like, to be on my favorite band list, you need to have good lyrics. Like, I know some people like melodies and some people like cool drum beats and things like that. Like, lyrics for me is very far up there, because I love to just overanalyze what's going on, and I love when lyrics and a song can make me feel a certain way or remind me of a certain time, even though that's not what that might be written about. But I'm connecting with it in that way. There's so many different meanings to a song, and I kind of like whenever there's perspective of, the songwriter doesn't go out and say, oh, this song's about this, and this, because then it kind of leaves the song more open to interpretation and you being able to use your mind. I think being misunderstood in a sense is kind of nice in music, because when someone's misunderstanding, I guess what your lyrics are saying, it means they're actually truly speaking to them, in my opinion. Because when someone's misunderstanding and taking it for a different meaning, it means they've gone beyond and thought past what you've written about, and now they've connected with your song on a personal level. So for that reason, I have no problem being misunderstood.
Definitely. Well, and it's funny. I'm pretty sure I've said this 100 times in the show before, so I apologize if you're someone who's listening right now going, oh, I know where he's going with this. But there is a quote. I'm a humongous fan of like the 2000s, like kind of hard rock metal, alternative metal scene, like the Seethers and Stains and Godsmacks and things of that nature. But there is a quote from Aaron Lewis from Stained. Also, he's a solo country artist, but he would be asked about his lyrics all the time, and he would say, I don't talk about them because I like to keep things, there's a term I use, I like to keep things perfectly vague. Where to me, I have what it means, and I have what it meant to me to get those words out, but then to you, that could mean something completely different, and that is good songwriting. I've had people tell me things that my lyrics have meant to them, and I'm like, whoa, you took something completely different from that. But on the flip side too, there's artists like a Sean Morgan from Seether, where he has said, I do not talk about lyrics ever. And when asked why, he says, because my explanation might suck. Like, he's like, what if I wrote the song about like taking a dump? And you're talking about how like it like saved your life, and it's like, whoa, holy, like this is so it's definitely interesting to have that take on it, because some people like to explain in great detail, which I do enjoy that as well. Don't get me wrong. There's certain artists I've had on the show before where when they dive into what a specific song means, if we're doing a deep dive into one of their songs, and they say, here's what exactly this song is about, it's happened before where then that song takes on a new meaning for me. And it's almost like I connected with it, but then once you explained it a little bit, it's like, oh, like it almost takes on a new meaning. So when I can obviously understand that as well, but I think that in the world of punk and rock, it's definitely very good to have that attitude of like, let's keep things kind of, just for lack of a better term, vague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no. The cool thing about music is there's no wrong or right way to do it. Just do it is true to yourself. And if what true to yourself is writing a song and explaining what it means to you and sharing that meaning, then go ahead, man, do it. All the power to you.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening to The Harder Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen. With great rates and service, you cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under Jaybird Digital Arts. That's JAYBIRD digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. And now let's get back to the show.
Speaking on music, of course, as well, and that you mentioned a little bit ago about actually forming Chruch On Sunday. So I kind of wanted to get into that. When you guys first formed up, you had mentioned that, obviously like you guys were playing covers and that, but when you started really getting serious with the band, what was kind of your plan of action? Like, obviously, I'm assuming you knew, okay, we're going to do punk rock, or was there kind of a different plan? Did you always want that style, or?
I think when I first started, I was very like towards that punk sound. You start with a lot of covers and things like that. So a lot of the like, I guess what I'm trying to say is whenever you start out as an artist, there's a lot of, I guess, copying going on, like a lot of like a lot of earlier music, you can tell the direct influence from a lot of bands, like where it came from, sort of thing, that as you grow on as an artist, you grow and develop your own style. And that's quite frankly how you stay relevant. Like a lot of bands get big and stuff by copying the sound that's going on at the time and emulating that sound. But the reason a band stays bigger and whatnot, like Green Day is a great example, is they've evolved and they've changed their sound to keep changing and stuff, because they came out at the time with that Nirvana movement and all that grunge going on. So originally, yes, it was very, very rooted in punk, power chords, this and that. But as I've grown personally as a songwriter and whatnot, things have changed a lot. And we recently just recorded an EP at Union Sound in Toronto. Beautiful studio, great place. And I don't even know what genre to put on it anymore, and I don't like to limit by genre. I don't like to say, oh, does this sound punk? Can we do it? I more look at it and say, oh, is this something I as a musician would write, I as a musician would present? And that's I don't want to put a genre limitation on stuff, because the new music, there is some stuff that's like heavy riff rock, but there's also like punk influences, but there's also a song, dude, that is basically like, it's got a ska beat to it. Okay. So I never want to close a door is the way I look at it. I'd rather try an idea and say, well, that sounded like shit, rather than turn my nose up an idea sort of thing.
Well, and it's interesting because, looking back on some of the stuff that you guys have done in the past, just like briefly talking about it, obviously, one of the fun things for me when I was first introduced to you guys was actually the Christmas EP you guys did, Merry Punkmas, which if you guys haven't heard that, I know it's not Christmas, but like, you should go check it out because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do. But even just going from there, to the latest thing that you guys have done, and obviously it's really awesome to hear that you guys have kind of something in the can, so to speak. So we'll be looking forward to that, and maybe once give a little more detail on that, we'll have to.
Yeah, I guess I'll just jump in real quick and just say we actually do a few things coming down the pipe, awesome. Because we originally, the band had a different drummer and things like that, and we released like 2 records a bit ago that have actually been taken down off the Spotify and stuff because originally the band, was a lot for just fun and whatnot, and so that stuff was like recorded in my basement. This is before I got heavily into production and stuff, so a lot of it was pretty like rough and sloppy sort of thing. So because of that, we've actually taken all that stuff down, and what remains is like the Christmas EP and one single and then the Ballroom cover we just put out. So we actually are on top of those songs we recorded at Union Sounds, which were supposed to come out by now, but we've put it back just because everything. We actually have this thing we're working on, which we are entitling But Better. And it's basically a re-records and some rethinks of some old Chruch On Sunday music coming back out. And it's interesting that we talk about, the developing of songwriting and things like that, because me going back and looking at these songs now, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, this is like such a simple song and things like that, but I really just love the melody and I really love what's going on. So there's a lot of songs in here that I've teetered with, do I really still want to re-release this because the new music is so far-fetched and so different from this. This might drag people in the wrong direction of the sound we are, but then I come back to, what, people love these songs when we play them live, so I want them to be there for those people to go back, and then whenever we release this new music, people are going to be mind blown. So
for sure. And I mean, as someone who I've had the pleasure over the last 4 years or over 4 years, I guess now, of I'll get into a band that I have on the show or whatever, and then they're like, oh, here's our new music, and I'll be like, oh, this is really cool, but like I still will have my favorites obviously on the old EP or whatever, and then I see that completely disappear off the face of the earth. It's like, oh, we don't play those anymore. It's like, what?
Yeah,
like, there's nothing worse than that. So it's good to hear that you're kind of mindful of that there's going to be people who like, oh, like this new stuff is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, but like when I first heard you guys play, you had this one song that went da 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 da. What's that song? Where's that?
Yeah, it's like one of the first songs like the band ever kind of had it's a song called Born a Runaway, and it's like a typical like three chord like power punk sort of thing, and it's just fast paced, and the chorus is just like this melodic like, do you wanna run away, we were all born runaways, like very typical like pop punky thing that I look at and I think, whatever, it was an okay song, but all these people like come after and like, oh, that song stuck in my head, oh, that song is a great song, I like that song. And so as an artist, you might get tired of your music and think, okay, I've done so much better than this, I don't want to play it anymore. But exactly what you just said, there are people that do appreciate that, because there was one point in time where I thought that was the greatest song I've ever written, but as I've gotten better as a songwriter, I think, then those songs get pushed back to the wayside.
Definitely. And it's, there's nothing wrong with evolving. And the one thing that I can't stand with a lot of music fans is a band will evolve, especially in some of the music I love, where it's, they used to be very angry, and then now it's like, hey, you're not angry anymore. It's like, well, yeah, that was 20 years ago. Like, sorry, I'm a dad now. Like, I'm not as angry as I was at one point. Like,
no,
what do you want me to lie to you? Like, so I'm all for evolving in that, obviously.
There's you need to evolve, otherwise you just sit there and rot. Like, you can't release the same goddamn thing forever. And I can think of a few bands that's the reason, like, their music is good and all, but there's some bands I look at and I'm like, you were pretty big. Why didn't you get even bigger? And then you kind of look at their discography, and it's like every record sounds the same.
Yeah, you've released the same record 3 or 4 times.
But then there is always that small portion of fans and stuff that want bands to continue doing the same thing, like Blink-182, for example. Their first couple records, like look at Enema of the State, like songs with All the Small Things is on there and whatnot, and people love that record. Then they evolved and they did the Blink, their self-titled record, which has songs like I Miss You, and then they had their breakup and they came back and they did Neighborhoods, which is it's like spacey rock sort of thing, kind of blends a bit of Tom DeLonge's Angels and Airwaves. And personally, I love that Blink record. I love it so much just because of how pure it sounds and how creative and different it is. But so many people shit on it because they're like, this isn't Blink-182. And it's like, you aren't in Blink-182. Who are you to say what Blink-182 is? So,
like, who the hell decided that you were the one to say, oh, this is not this band anymore? It's like, that's who are you?
Exactly.
Would you rather the band literally, like, I say this, like, I'm a huge, like, will fight people if they talk shit about Hatebreed, for example. And the vocalist of Hatebreed, Jamie Josta, one of my Lord and Saviors, he literally has said 100 times, like, look, Hatebreed has a formula. Our fans like it. If we go too far outside of the box, they get really mad. But there's nothing to say that we can't at least dip our toes in the water a bit, and we can still evolve while still keeping those same, as he would say, quote unquote, caveman style riffs, and the generic 2-minute long songs and stuff, like while still being able to, hey, I have clean vocals on this song. It's like, whoa, holy crap. Like, you see it a lot, I guess, in metal more so, that there's evolving, whereas a band might be like, hey, all we do is scream at you. But then eventually, oh, he's singing. What the hell? You see it a lot, and some fans dig it, and some fans just, they don't want it.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But at the end of the day, like, personally, from an artist perspective, what I can really say is, as long as you're being true to yourself and you're making music that you enjoy, who really cares? Like, if you are doing something that means a lot to you. And actually, Machine Gun Kelly, I'll bring up Machine Gun Kelly. I've never really gotten into Machine Gun Kelly's music, but he just recently released a single with Travis Barker from Blink-182, and a lot of people were talking about it. I was like, I'm going to check this out, and it's like basically pop punk, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. And the cool thing about being able, and I didn't know this, but he's like a huge pop punk fan. That's like where a lot of his roots are, sort of thing. So, I listened to the single that came out. I loved it so much, and just how genuine it was, and his voice. So because of that, I now have gone back and listened to his other music, because that one oddball thing he did got me, I really like this guy's voice. I really like his lyrics. So I'm going to try listening to his other music.
That's awesome. And I actually haven't heard it, but I've heard really good things about it. But it's funny, like with artists in the, kind of the pop top 40 world right now, like Machine Gun Kelly's one, where he kind of does represent that kind of pop punk rock crowd a little bit, but then also someone who made absolute waves and headlines recently in the rock world with a live stream concert that he did. I'm not sure if you heard about this. I'm assuming you probably did, because it was like everywhere, but was when Post Malone did a live stream of a whole bunch of Nirvana songs. Yeah, I watched it. I'd heard about it because I used to be like a massive Nirvana fan, and I love Post Malone. So I was like, I know he can play guitar. I know he can do kind of rock-ish style vocals. So I check it out, and it's like kind of the same thing. I was seeing comments of people going like, hang on a minute, isn't this that guy who did Rockstar? It's like, yes, but also there's a whole other side to him. And so now people are like, well, if he can do this, I want to hear him do like a rock record now. And so I keep saying to people, just wait, man, just wait for Post Malone to drop that rock record. It's coming.
He's so young. He can do whatever he wants, and I would love it, because I've seen that live stream. I showed it to my mom too, because she was a big Nirvana fan, and I think it was phenomenal. And he can, like, he blew it out of the park. And I don't like. I didn't expect that. You know, like I knew he had like that aspect to him, but I genuinely didn't expect it to be that good. I'm not gonna lie. The original reason I clicked it on was because Travis Barker was playing drums, and I
Yes,
love
yeah.
Travis. So,
You know
but,
what's anything? You know if you know if Travis Barker, excuse me, holy crap. I don't know who Trevor Barker is, but you know if he's involved with it, like it's gotta at least be passable.
yeah,
Because like, you know.
I love drums. Like drumming is always something that I've enjoyed. So because of things like that, I like Travis, and like there'll be times like at band practice or things like I'll say to Ian, "Can you play this beat? I just want to watch you play it because I just love drumming so much." You know?
Definitely, I'm the same way, and it's funny. Like you mentioned, obviously, like clicking on it because you're like, oh, like it's almost like you expect, like you don't really know what you're gonna get from it when you click on it. And it was such a wonderful surprise. Not that you like were clicking on it saying like, oh, this is gonna suck or anything. You knew, okay, Travis is here. I like him. Let's check it out. And it's funny because on that note, I kind of had the same thought process as far as I was like, okay, I know these guys are talented. I've heard from someone I love dearly in this world that, you know, they're good guys. So I'm going to check out this song. And I was very pleasantly blown away by what I was met with. And that was your guys' cover of Ballroom Blitz. We've mentioned it a couple times. And I would really love to hear the story behind that, how that whole thing happened.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's always nice to hear when people enjoy an art form that you've put out. So I appreciate the kind words. As for how it happened, like it just, I think I mentioned earlier, Ballroom Blitz, loved that song as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think what originally got me into it, I think it was in a movie. I think it was in like Daddy Daycare or something, you know. And I was like, this song is really cool. And then my parents, having that old rock taste, knew exactly what it was and like played it for me. So it's always been there. And then one day I was just like, I want to cover Ballroom Blitz. Like this was years ago. And so we started playing it live and this and that and whatnot. And we did this thing where like we traded the vocals and then did all this and whatnot. And every time we played it, dude, we played it like once or twice, but every time we played it people went nuts. And it turned to a point where we were playing shows and people were like, are you going to play Ballroom Blitz? And it's been our closer. Like we've ended it with it so much just because as you've heard, we don't just exactly play it the way the record plays it too, you know? We changed it a bit.
It's very like, you know, obviously, you know, the guitar's a little more prominent. You know, it still has that iconic intro with the drums and everything. So like that was good because that was my number one thing. Like when I clicked on it, I'm like, okay, I know the guitars are going to be a bit heavier. I expected the vocals to obviously be a little different, but I was like, how else is it going to be different? Are they going to at least keep the basic backbone of like the second you hear it, you know what it is? Yeah. And that's what like really blew me away about it was I was like, okay, they kept kind of that original backbone while just kind of still spicing it up a little bit and kind of doing your take on it.
Yeah, I think that's important when you do a cover song because you're not the original artist, you know? So keep in mind the original song and do honor to the original song, but also make it your own, you know, make it your own version and whatnot, because people don't want to sit around and listen to a copycat version of a song. They'll just put the original on it, you know, because more often than not, when you're trying to exactly copy a song, the original is usually better, you know?
Exactly, so, yeah. It's like, oh, this is pretty good, but like, you know, if I'm going to listen to the same song, I'll just go listen to the original one.
Yeah, I mean, it's nerve-wracking kind of, I think, in a sense, when you're putting out a classic song like Ballroom Blitz, because it's like, oh, are people going to like it? Or like, you know, I don't know. But the reception, like, well, it's been like tremendous and people have enjoyed it and shared it. And I don't know, like just seeing the messages, like even today I got a message because we have it up on our Bandcamp page that you can download it for free, whatever. That's just, you know, the way we're kind of rolling with things right now. Just take our music, enjoy it right now. You know, because people, I think a lot of people, like during these tough times and whatever, people are looking for a way to boost it up. And I know music is something for me. But anyways, I had a buddy of mine I haven't spoken to in years be like, I've been streaming Ballroom Blitz a bunch. I love it. How can I pay you for it? You know, and just that text to me, you know, I haven't spoken to this guy in like 4 or 5 years. And the fact that he went out of ways to message me and be like, I want to buy this from you because I like it so much, just really made my day. And I guess to fully answer your question of how it kind of fully came around and came out, it was just the positive reception and people enjoying it. And about a year ago, we finished building my studio here, and we sat down, me and Ian sat down, and we recorded drums for 18 songs. It was a bit mental, but with that, we recorded a bunch of like drum, some covers, and a bunch of like songs, like I mentioned before. We're doing some re-records of older songs, and in those things was the drums for Ballroom Blitz. And to throw back as to what we started talking about at the beginning of the show, we've kind of had time to go back and dive into projects didn't really think enough time for. That was one of those things that whenever things were calming down, like getting canceled and the world was falling apart, I was able to sit down and say, you know what, we have this, we have the drums are here, the backbone's laid, let's finish this cover sort of thing and get this out. And I'm going to say one real fun fact about the song. I recorded my guitar parts, and then Jake, the bass player in the band, came and did it right before like all this intense lockdown and stuff started. And then I did all the vocals on my own. But as you heard at the beginning of the song, there's the typical, all right, fellas, let's go, and the call for each person. Mm-hmm. But with social distancing and the guys not really in the band having access to record, I was like, okay, how do we do this? But then, modern technology, this and that, not a crazy thing. It's just such a small part. I actually basically what I had them do was I had them all record on their smartphones, them just saying like yeah, and for that intro part, I'm just like, can you guys just record me like 8 different times of you just recording it? They sent it to me, like I picked my favorite one, just like EQ'd it and whatever and made it sound good and put it in there. A lot of people ask like how that part was done because it just fit in there, but that's the beauty of modern technology. No one knows the difference. If I didn't tell you right now, you probably wouldn't have known.
Straight up. I assumed you guys had recorded this a while ago, and that's hilarious, man. That's so cool. Like, I mean, as a podcaster, modern technology is still crazy. I mean, I was jokingly telling you earlier about the fact that I was having all these audio issues before with Skype and that, and we've been talking now for like well over 40 minutes or so, and like, there's still the fact that you're in a whole other part of, Ontario than me, and we're able to have this nice, clear conversation. It's really a trip, and it's something that we saw in our lifetime, and it's like you're able to do something like that where, you can get a good enough track that you can then use to EQ to make it sound like it was done in a studio. It's just, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are recording records and things at home now too. Mind you, they have okay mic setups and things like that, but with a lot of modern technology and, dare I say it because I don't like going near it, sampling, you can achieve a lot of. I love like back to me loving drums. I love just like a raw drum sound. Like I'll spend a whole day setting a drum set up and getting the sounds right rather than sampling later, just because it just roots back to the music I listen to. But
it's a different, like, it has a different energy, but also there's a certain punch.
Yes,
a live drum, even just like talking on like a snare drum, there's a certain, like, I don't really know the term to use, but it's almost like there's a certain like bounce that it has that you don't get. Same with a bass drum, like just having a basic drum beat when it's a live, raw, real drum track, there's just it has a different energy about it. It really does.
Yeah, so like you can record a lot at home, and then a lot of people are just like, sending it off to get mixed and paying someone to mix it sort of thing, and then they might sample it or EQ it or do all these things, and people are producing pretty decent music, from their bedroom, which is a great thing for up and coming artists, but it's also kind of a tough thing for one side of the music industry, which I guess has died a bit. Like recording studios and stuff, a lot have suffered. Like a lot of studios, I know, for example, in Toronto, have closed over the past 20 years due to the influx of easier well, because back in the day you needed like $1 million worth of equipment to record something. Now you can go to your local music shop and be set up with an amazing setup to record a whole drum set for a couple $100. So
it's really a crazy thing, but I would love right now for everybody listening, we were talking a little bit about the guys' cover of Ballroom Blitz. I would like right now for us to crank into that song so you guys can hear it. It is a badass cover that I know you guys are going to enjoy. So crank it up. This is Ballroom Blitz by Chruch On Sunday.
Are you ready, Liam? Jake? Yeah. Ian? All right. Oh yeah! It was like lightning. Everybody was frightening, and the music was soothing, and they all started grooving.
Chruch On Sunday. You guys just heard their cover of Ballroom Blitz, and man, it's such a fun cover. I can only imagine how it would be live, like just especially like I'm picturing like the first show back after all this, you guys closing out with that song now is gonna be ridiculous.
It's gonna be mental. It's I don't even know, man. Like, it's one of those things that when that show actually happens, I'm probably gonna cry when it's over, just because it's usually something that we do a lot, play and whatnot. But it's hard capturing, an essence of a song you play live on a recording. And I strongly say that we are a live band, that we perform the best when we're live, because we put on a show and we have interesting things that go on. I'm just going to say interesting. You have to see us for yourself to know exactly what's going on. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting on stage and playing that as well as a bunch of other music.
Definitely what I mean, like as far as with shows and that, like you mentioned earlier, you kind of threw in the fact that you were actually like you were a theater kid at one point. So like just you telling me that as someone who has had the pleasure of knowing some great, people who were quote unquote theater kids throughout high school that then went on to be, frontmen for bands and frontwomen for bands and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of like performance that just to kind of, not to say like you guys just to lump y'all in, because obviously you guys are all unique and different, but there's a certain level of charisma and a performance that it's just different from your typical, like, with all due respect to typical rock frontmen. It's like,
yeah,
there's something different about it.
Well, there's a difference in, especially with rock and roll, I guess. I won't speak to everything because I can't speak on it, but to rock and roll, I know that there's a part of it is, is looking cool. Part of it's, the attitude, like that whole thing going on. And any band that you see live, or any band that really puts on a good show, is a band that they entertain. They don't just get up on stage and play their songs, they entertain. So that's always something that I go for and want to strive for, because if I'm at a concert, what do I want to be seeing? So I try and put what I would want to be seeing on a stage, sort of thing.
It's obviously you want to hear great music and you want to hear the songs that and you want to sing along and everything, but you also want to be entertained. It's entertainment.
Yeah. And I think that's why right now it's been a challenge to try and get through to fans and people right now, because a lot of people are live streaming and doing things like that, but we do a lot of crowd interaction and things like that. So that whole aspect's gone, and it's like I don't really know what to do with this. Even a couple of weeks ago, I did. I don't know if you know emo dad Duncan. He's doing like a.
Yes, sir. I know Duncan.
Yeah. Perfect. He's a great guy.
I know everybody pretty much, man. That's
it's a good way to be. It's a good way to be.
I love Duncan. He's a great guy.
He I was on his broadcast from the Bunkers thing, where he's have a bunch of different artists on, and I played a bunch of acoustic songs on it, and it was just weird, because I'm so used to playing and then talking with, even when I'm doing like an open mic or something, interacting and talking with people and stuff like that. But it's just weird sitting in a room waiting for these YouTube comments to come in at a minute delay and still playing the music.
It's like you're sitting there playing, and it's like you ask the crowd a question or something, and then like you. Yeah, awesome. All right.
What I would do is I'd ask a question or say something before like a song. I'd be like, I'm gonna get to that after I play this song, because I needed some way to interact or something. I needed to do something engaging.
Yeah, trust me, as someone who's done some live podcasts and stuff like that before, when you ask a question, you have to sit there like an idiot and wait for someone to respond with nothing to do but twiddle your thumbs. It's the absolute worst. At times I'm like, man, I wish I had a guitar in my hand or something. I'd just be like, hey, I'm gonna play God's song real quick.
Exactly.
Here's the I don't know what the hell's going on song.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But how have the those, like, how'd that show go for you as far as like that bunker show? Sorry guys, I'm totally drawing a blank, even though we just talked about this. My brain is not working today. But as far as the overall response from that, I've been seeing lots of stuff about it, so I know it's been going really well. I had Duncan on the show not that long ago, but it was just before all this happened. So we didn't really get to discuss it, but I saw him kind of get launched that. How was the reception from that for you? Like, obviously you spoke about how like it was kind of a little odd for you, but like, did like a lot of people tune in? Were people excited just to get some live music happening?
I don't remember exactly how many people were on there, but there was a decent crowd, So there was a decent amount of people that were in there, and the chat was going on. And the cool thing was, it was like 6 hours, the whole thing. People were playing this and that. And I kind of had the stream open in like another window while I was like sitting, working on whatever I was working on. And there was just people popping in and out through the whole thing and stuff. So that was really nice to see all these just random people coming together. And I think there's also, I got to reach different people I would have never reached if I was playing, a Chruch On Sunday show, because these people wouldn't be there, but they just because the platform and the ease of access to get there. So the reception was great, and I can speak to like my friends that all watched it. They're like, yeah, that was awesome, like you should do something else like that, blah 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 blah. So people are enjoying it, and the entertainment that it brings during these crazy times.
Well, that's awesome, and it's such an important thing right now as creative people to be able to, obviously for yourself, to have that outlet. I mean, let's not lie, that is extremely important, but also it's got to feel good in a way, knowing that like, something I do that I enjoy doing can also help make someone else's day a little bit better too,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my love and want to do music kind of stems from. Music really changed my life in a sense that so many artists and so many things I listen to boosts my mood or can decline my mood. I always say music is life. Whenever like tell me, man, name a time in your life where you're listening to music and the music you've chosen hasn't been dictated by your feelings. If you're sad, you listen to sad music. If you're happy and you're working out or whatever, you listen to upbeat music. It's so important, and it's such an industry that I think gets overlooked a lot and people take for granted, is not just music, I think film and things like that as well, because it's just there. People don't realize how important it is. It's just there. But in times like this where people need entertainment, they're really fleeing to all these different sources of entertainment. And if it was gone, like what would all these people be doing?
Yeah, a lot of people will these people, this movie studio made too much, or they make all this money, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to pirate their movie and everything. But it's like, like you just said, man, picture right now there being no movies, no TV, no music, no video games, no podcasting, nothing. What would you, like, really, I'm going to hang out with my family and everything. But it's like, after a few days of that, you're like, okay, now what?
I saw a post that it was kind of like a bit of a thing that made you think. It's like all these things have been deemed non-essential, and the world's relying on books and movies and audio and everything. So they're just like, remember this time, next time you have to pay $5 cover at a show or something. Yeah. Remember this, that the music and whatnot has gotten you through this. So.
Absolutely. And there's a little thing I have on my wall behind me here in my little room. That's where words fail, music speaks.
I actually kind of have a similar thing hanging up in my room as well. It's an old record, and it's got like a spray paint stencil that says, "All it takes is one song to bring back 1,000 memories."
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's music is such a powerful thing, and I mean that's the whole reason this freaking podcast started over 4 years ago, was so I could talk to people about music, because it's such a powerful thing, and it's something that means so much to me, and like means something to you and to people listening. It's such a powerful thing, and at a time like this especially, I think that it's so important to make sure that we're still supporting artists as much as we can, even if it's just, hey, like and follow our page, share our song so people can hear it. Like, it's free to do that.
Some people don't realize how much that helps. Like some people are like I get it. You can't afford to buy my merch. You might not be able to afford to this, and I'm not going to hound after you to buy anything, because I know what it's like to not be able to like pay for something like that. Especially when you got bills and things
for sure
hanging over you. But people a lot of the time don't realize how much, liking my page, following me on Spotify and all these things help. And then I would literally say to my friends or people I've met, it'd be like, literally just pre-save the song on Spotify. It helps a ton. They're like, really? I'm like, seriously, like it takes you 30 seconds and it's the most helpful thing you're going to do today for someone.
Straight up. I always joke around, and this is not meant to come off negatively, guys, but like for me, like people say like, how can I help you? And I'm like, honestly, if half of the people on my Facebook, not even half, like a quarter of the people on my Facebook clicked play or downloaded every single one of my episodes, it would be a life-changing thing for me. Like full-on life-changing, like no idea how crazy that would be for me. Is that what I'm looking for? Absolutely not. Of course not. But I don't think, like you're saying, man, like I don't think some people realize that just clicking a button can really help out so much when you're in some kind of an artistic outlet or a creative outlet of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it's kind of a staple here on the show as we get ready to wind down here. And man, I really appreciate you coming on and hanging out. It's been really great talking to you. Talking a little bit about shows and kind of obviously right now things are a little different, but let's look back for a minute here. Do you have, and this is a big staple question here on the Harder Show, do you have either a favorite show that stands out in your memory or a couple favorite shows, or on the flip side of that, if there's none that come to mind, do you have like some shows that were just like funny bad?
We talking shows I've been to or played?
Played.
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing in my memory is is like our Lee's Palace show at the beginning of this year, just because of how many people were there, and we got to play a bunch of new music and just how packed, how seeing a packed crowd react. I remember before we were going on, like we had a lot of like friends and family and stuff there, and people were coming up to us being like, are you nervous? Like, there's a lot of people here, and we're all like, no, this is like what we want to be doing. So that really stands out to me. I'm trying to think of anything funny, or like we've played a lot of shows and we've kind of been away from that side of, I guess, life right now, so it doesn't, not too much comes to mind. But another memorable experience I think I will say is we played in Ottawa. I think it was September. We were in Ottawa, and we played this venue, and it like sold out. It was packed, and we were playing a couple of local bands, and it was mental because, in Toronto, that's where we're from. We expect people to be there. But when I'm playing in a place like Ottawa, starting out, this was the first time we ever played in Ottawa too. I'd be happy with 5 people there,
Oh, for sure.
But there was, I don't know the capacity of the venue. There looked like there was at least 100, 200 people there, and it was crammed. I remember it was really hot in there, no air conditioning, like end of the summer weather. It was really hot. We got on stage and we just jammed out, and everyone was jamming with us. And that to me, like, I don't know, just made our night so great. We ended up, I think we ended up driving to Montreal after that, but we were up to like 7 a.m. and we just were all full of energy because we built off that energy, and then, the next night we went and we played in Montreal, and the show was kind of more of a flop. But it's, you win some, you lose some. Is the way to look at it. And I don't, whether I'm playing to 5 people or 500 people, I'm still going to try and put on the same show, sort of thing.
For sure, man. It's such an important thing, and I'm sure that even if there's only a few people there, that they appreciate it, and that you can always tell when someone's just giving you everything they have when they're on that stage. Yeah.
And people do recognize it, which is the cool thing. Because I remember we did play that Montreal show, and it was a very small crowd. But like I said, first time in Montreal, who cares? Someone came up to me after the show, and she's like, I feel so bad for you. I wish there was more people here to see that, is what she said to me. And that, to me, that made my night. Like, that was good enough for me, just that person realizing the effort that we're putting out and seeing and enjoying what we enjoy, to the point where she was like followed us on Instagram and all this stuff, and she was basically like, next time you guys are here, make sure, like, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna bring my friends out, sort of, is basically what she was saying to us, because awesome. She enjoyed it so much, and it's like, at the end of the day, though, I'd also rather have a room of 10 people that actually give a shit, rather than a room of 40 people that are all on their phones, like, looking the other direction,
For sure. They're just sitting there filming an experience they're never going to watch back again, It's
yeah.
For sure, man. Well, that's so awesome to hear. And there's just one last thing before we go that I got to ask about that you mentioned earlier. And your 52 guitars. Now, obviously, if you ran through every single one, we'd probably be here all night. But as a guitar guy, I got to ask, how did the whole thing with your collection start? Is it just like at one point you realized, like, oh crap, I have a lot of guitars? Or is it kind of something mindful that you were like, I want a big guitar collection?
Dude, I was always into, I like art, I love art, and I'm the kind of guy that when I eventually, get my own house and have my rock star mansion, it's gonna be full of art, it's gonna be full of like things like that. And I think that's why I like guitars so much, because I think they're works of art. And I just kind of slowly, when I was getting into music, and I think it was also partly getting into the producer side, I was like, oh, I want this guitar for this sound. Oh, I want this guitar for this sound. Oh, I want to try this. And I just slowly spiraled until the point where it just blew up. And then it got to the point where I was like modding and building guitars. And then there was just no looking back, because I was buying different parts and different things for here and yada, yada, yada. And, I'm at a point now where I sell sometimes, and I trade sometimes, but I do have my favorites and whatnot I stick to.
What are a couple of those favorites that you usually have? Like, do you have one that's like your baby, or is there just too many to count?
It's like picking a favorite child.
Sure.
But this is actually something I've been thinking about recently. I'm gonna give you my top 3.
Okay, lay it on me.
I've wanted for a while a Gibson like semi-hollow guitar, but I didn't really know exactly which one. I say recently, but it's actually been a while now. I got a Gibson ES335 custom shop, which is beautiful. If you look at any photos of the Ladies Palace show, you'll see me playing it. And oddly enough, I don't know if you know the band Single Mothers. I was on Kijiji one day and I was browsing through there and I messaged some guy and I was talking to him. He's like, by the way, I think I know you. I think you played with my band a while ago. It's like, oh, it's whatever his name is from Single Mothers. So I ended up buying this guitar off the guy from Single Mothers. So there's that one. Then oddly enough, I bought a Squier Telly. I was never into Tellys. Part of like a deal for two guitars. Like I wanted one guitar and the guy was selling two, and I was like, you know what, I'll take the other one because I was planning on like taking parts out of the Telly, putting it elsewhere, and maybe reselling the Telly as a mod. But it's a Squier Telly. It's like a $300 guitar, and I neglected it for so long, but I love it. It performs. I play the Squier Telly and my Gibson ES335 the most. It's funny because one costs $5,000, one costs $300. So there's no way to say value like determines the sound of a guitar. If it works, it works. And the last one is a really, really recent acquisition.
Close enough. Close enough for this show, man.
It's a Gibson special double cutaway with P90s in an antique cherry red. I think it's like a 2001 sort of thing. I own a couple specials. And anytime I see one on the market, that is like my addiction. The specials, like when they come on the market, like my friends send them to me because they know I'm going to grab them like if I can. And I bought this one just expecting to have another one in my collection, maybe trade it off, see how it works. I bought it without even playing it. That's how much I love these things. And I've been playing it so much lately, and it sings like any other guitar. You can have two of the exact same guitars made on the exact same day at the exact same like place, but they might sound totally different.
That is so very true, especially I find that with affordable guitars even. Like people will say, oh, it's just some pieces of wood with some electronics and some strings. And it's like, no, because I'm a big fan of the ESP LTD Eclipse series. Like that's my one guitar I've got. You can take two of those guitars. I used to work in a store that sold a ton of them. And I would take four of those guitars that all look the exact same, strung the same, tuned the same, plug them into the same amp, and they would all sound just a little different. Yeah. So it's such a unique thing, and all guitars really have a personality.
Yep. It's very, very true. So if you have something that works and you like it, don't be worried about the price tag on it. If it works, it works.
Absolutely, man. Well, Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure finally getting to talk to you, man. I've had so much fun chatting with you. Where can the good people find you on social media and all your projects?
So Chruch On Sunday, we're at Chruch On Sunday Band. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook with that. We also just got Twitter. The easiest way to find us, though, is just go to chruchonsunday.ca. Not .com. We're not American. That's our shtick. We say that after every show. But yeah, chruchonsunday.ca. All the links are there. It has links to our Spotify, our Bandcamp, and all that fun stuff. Personally, you can find me on Instagram. You're welcome to follow me. I'm at Fluffio. It's because I've got a big fluffy mane of hair. And then on my and everything, we'll have Chruch On Sunday. And then lastly, my company, there's a lot, is Agoria Productions. You can go to Agoria, AGORIA.ca. It's all there. Or you can just look up Agoria Productions on Instagram or Facebook, and if you're looking for merch or anything, and our upcoming shows, whenever there are some, will be there. So that is all that. And thank you very, very much for having me. It's very happy we finally got to do this, and I've had a pleasure talking to you.
For sure, my man. I appreciate it, and definitely once things get rolling again, getting ready to have some of that music up, we'll have to chat again in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, gang, there you have it. My chat with Ryan Preiano from Chruch On Sunday. Hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. It was so much fun to get to chat with him. Like I joked about in the beginning, it was another one that was a long time coming, and I had a lot of reschedules I had to do, and he was just very gracious and a very great guy. So I got to really enjoy chatting with him. We chatted after the pod, too, for a little bit about some fun random stuff, and he's a great guy, great band. Be sure to go check him out on all the social medias. I'll have the descriptions of those down below in this episode here. And I just thank you guys so very much for hanging with us and hanging with me and still listening at this point. You are the best. If you are still listening, you deserve a hug. Obviously, I can't give you one because you're listening to a podcast. But what I can do is give you a little audio fist bump. Boom. I appreciate you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button or that follow button, depending on how you are listening to this podcast. It means the world to me to have your guys' support. I thank you so very much for that. Just like I thank my Patreon supporters, my hotheads, patreon.com/The Hotter Show. If you want to help support the show, help the show grow, check that out. For a very small monthly subscription, you can help this show out and also get some bonus content you will not find anywhere else from your boy, as well as different bonuses and things of that nature. All the information for that is on the Patreon. But I want to give a big shout out to the two number one fans of The Hotter Show, my hotheads, my Patreon supporters. My boy, Scott, has been pretty much a lifelong friend of mine. I've known Scott for years. I really appreciate all your support, my man. Thank you so very, very much. Also, for those of you in the Clarington, Ontario area, now that, things are starting to slowly get back to normal, now that, the nicer weather has come, maybe you need your windows cleaned up after having a whole winter and some a pretty nasty spring in some regards and a cold spring. Maybe you need your deck power washed or something like that. Hit my boy Scott up at Suds Window Cleaning. That's right, Suds Window Cleaning, the best damn window cleaning power washing company in Clarington, Ontario, in the world, but specifically Clarington, Ontario, because that's where he's at. Hit up Suds Window Cleaning on social media. He's got the Facebook set up there, Suds Window Cleaning. Check him out. He deserves your support, and he's a big supporter of the show. So, Scott, thank you very much, my man. I appreciate it. And then, of course, we have my boy Will from Rolls Royce, one of the premier punk bands in the world. They actually just released a EP not that long ago, Larold. It is a badass EP. If you guys want to hear it in full, you can check it out on social media, on the Spotify. The band Rolls Royce, they're absolutely badass. RAWLS, Rolls Royce, ROYCE. And also, I have had Mitch and Will on the show from Rolls Royce recently. Just a few episodes ago, we did a actual full rundown of that EP. So if you want to hear the songs in full and have the guys explain them all, check that out. As well as we had a little bit of a COVID-19 discussion. So go check them out. Well, my man, I appreciate you and all your support. Thank you very much for being a Patreon subscriber. And if you want a little bit of a personalized shit like that every single week, all you have to do is check out patreon.com/The Hotter Show. Join up with any of the tiers and you will get a personalized shout out every single week here on the podcast. And if for some reason I forget to do it like I did last week, I will usually probably message you and apologize, or I will try really hard to make up for it the next following week, because sometimes life happens. Sometimes I'm in a huge rush to get an outro done or whatever, and I will miss something that's very important to me, and that is shouting out my Patreon supporters. But either way, appreciate the hell out of you guys, Scott and Will. Thank you so very much. And thank you very much for listening. Still listening. You are my hero. I hope that you are staying safe and staying healthy in these crazy times. And that, you're starting to maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. Because I think we're getting there. We just got to stay strong. Keep supporting everybody. Keep loving everybody. A lot of crazy shit going on right now. And just at the end of the day, all I'm going to say is just everybody love everybody. And there's no reason for anything else. There's no reason for hate and bigotry and racism and all that bullshit. Love everybody. We're all in this together. We all should be the same. We are all equal. There is no other way to put it. And if you disagree, you're fucking wrong. And don't listen to my podcasts anymore. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that. Peace and love, everybody. Always remember that you have the power to make someone else's day just a little bit brighter. And if you have the ability to do so, you definitely should. And that's going to do it for me here today on The Hotter Show. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And I will catch you guys next time right here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
on the Hotter Show. Take it easy, guys.